Morning, everybody. Welcome back to another Impact and Influence series with Regrowth. I'm excited today to be sharing with you somebody that the industry may not know who it is, which is always exciting. But we've got Matthew Bywater with us this morning. Hi, Matthew. How are you?
Hey, Kylie. How you doing?
Now, I didn't realise. So Matthew was wonderful enough to support us in our conference that we had for property professionals in August at the Hunter Valley. And our business has partnered with Matthew now for 2 years or almost 2 years, providing solutions to our customers. We get all of our promotional merchandise through Matthew and some other collateral that we use for our retreats. Anyway, we're talking about conference, and Matthew mentioned that he does some stuff on Channel 7. And then I started stalking you online. I'm like, oh my goodness, this guy is a marketing and communications expert. I have to get him on an Impact and Influence, and also trying to rope you into one of our conferences in Melbourne next year so everyone can share a little bit of your insights. So Matthew, who are you? What's your backstory? And share with us a little bit about your business.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Who am I? I'm a mixed bag. I started my professional career as an apprentice, and I did two apprenticeships. So I had this burning desire to be a tradesperson. And after doing two of them, I realized it probably wasn't for me. So I then started studying other things. And that's how I got into marketing. So I was fortunate enough to be able to get into marketing, into the industry I was already in. So that was fantastic to be able to use some skills I'd already learned and then move those into a sort of a different field. So I've had a varied career, worked across multiple industries, worked in a dozen and a half different countries. So I've had some global roles. So it's going to be a whole wealth of experience, a whole different sort of raft of different areas.
And marketing communications, and for anyone that wants to get some more of Matthew, it's Masters of Spin. Is that the segment that you do with Channel 7?
Yeah, Channel 7 on a Saturday morning. There's four of us that go on, and we discuss the latest, what's going on in marketing, advertising, and communications, and a lot of screw ups. Often it's a lot of screw ups. It's often things that have gone wrong. We've gone to discuss what happened, what should have happened.
And I think it's a really good lead in actually to talk about. So obviously, my space is small business and the real estate arena. What do you think that the industry does well, and where do you think we can improve from that marketing point of view?
It's an interesting one, because the industry, I actually think the real estate industry is one of a more professional environment for marketing and sales. And I know the latest conference we went to with you guys up in Hunter Valley, I mean, that was probably, it's only one case example, but everybody there was very proactively thinking about, how do I market better? How do I sell better? And I looked at that industry, and I know you had a raft of good speakers for sure, but everybody was there about self-improvement. How do I get better at what I'm doing? So the industry is actually already well advanced. Technology's changed things for you guys immensely. I mean, what you're seeing now through the walkthroughs, the bigger and larger agricultural properties with the drone flyovers and things. So there's lots of advantages and changes that can happen that can really help. One thing I'll say this, and I'll say this about real estate, and I mean this in complete kindness, and I'll say the same about automotive. I sometimes wonder with some companies I've worked with about their client care after the sale. And I've had first experience. I've bought numerous properties, I've sold some properties, and I was amazed that I can do deals which used to be hundreds of thousands, now they're millions of dollars, and I'll get a $4 key ring. I'm talking about from a merch perspective, and it's almost like love you, leave you, and now I'm going to go. It's just I sometimes wonder about that aftercare service, I think, and you think you guys, you have such a long tail in your repeats of sales, but you can't think that way. You've got to think of, yeah, they will be back. If you're community focused, you've got family and friends, there's going to be repeat if you can build that and culture that relationship.
So incredibly important. I think that you and I had a coffee before conference and we're talking about it, and I'm always driving your team mad with the personalization, best quality gifting, etc. But I think is that personalization, does it provide value, and is it relevant to the customer? I would say I've bought some investment properties over the time as well, and someone gives me white wine, for example. I don't drink white wine.
Yeah.
Or you get some cheap and nasty merch that's not reflective of your brand or what you're trying to convey in the marketplace. So I think that's a great thing going into the end of the year to have a look at and review and just look at those that's touch points and how you nurture the relationship a little bit better. Matthew, could you give us a bit of an overview, because I found it quite interesting how sophisticated your business was with the resources and technology, a bit about your business that you're in now, and what's working really well for you. You talk a lot around automation and resourcing and segmentation. Is there anything that you'd like to share with us that you think would be beneficial to our listeners around the structure of your business and or, performance or infrastructure?
Yeah, it's a funny industry because I've got an ag science degree, so I've got a technical background. When you look at promotional products, you go, well, it's just a shirt or a hat, or whack a logo on it and ship it out.
Yeah.
But I don't realise you actually go through the process. Some of our jobs are up to 35, 40 steps. And each one of those is an opportunity for error. And that's just in delivering a good. So we haven't got to the most important part, is the ideation phase, where if anyone goes wrong in promotional products, if they don't get maximum value, there's not enough time spent in the ideation phase. So we like to get in really early and talk to people about, what are your major objectives? Do you have any, is there any corporate umbrella sort of marketing message you need to get out? They need to reinforce, say, a particular sales message, because sometimes we can combine those two things. Because we need to know very early on, so we have enough time to scope different ideas. Because that's the hardest work. Getting the idea is the hardest part of the job. And then
how important, particularly in our industry, or what sort of solutions have you got, I suppose, around seasonal, particularly spring or auction season or winter or things like that? Is that a consideration?
Yeah, seasonal. Yeah, definitely seasonal, because you've got things that can work, but you guys have some stuff that works long term anyway. I mean, I always like to think with marketing, it's just an advertising medium. So promotional products are just an advertising medium. And when you think of that, you think about, where is your customer going to see it? And then where they see it, are they in an opportunity to actually make a decision then and there? So there's no use advertising on a billboard if they're not in a decision while they're driving their car. So if your business is like, for our promotional products, most of our decisions are made by clients at a desk. So we think desktop marketing. What can be around a computer? What can be at their desk? So when they're sitting down and think, I need some promotional merchandise, here's our business name right there in front of them. With real estate, it's probably a bit more broad. But one of the things you said before is that a lot of real estate selling is community-based selling. You're building up a local community. So you've got opportunities to sell not only to individual, but their family and their friends who are all local. So where are they mixing? Where are they meeting? And that's in the kitchen. It's at the barbecue. And then the third place may be the picnic area. And then you've got sporting clubs and things. But you can look at those areas and think, how can I market into those areas that not only reinforce my brand to the customer who you may have sold to, but also to all their circle of friends.
And that's about the home and community. It's important.
Yeah, it's everything, because it's what's in us. It's what's involved in us. Those things are very important to us, and we trust our friends better than we trust advertising. There's a whole thing with marketing, which I know it's old school for some, but so important. But people rarely believe what we tell them, which means a lot of advertising is ineffective. It really is. Companies spend millions of dollars on TV, and it's ineffective. So they rarely believe what we tell them. They sometimes believe what we show them. Like sometimes that's not a good result. They often believe what their friends tell them. So that's a good thing. Let's look at that. But they always believe what they tell themselves.
It's really interesting when you say about the desktop and the mobile. So the previous business I was in before Regrowth Consultancy, which was agency practice, 70-80% of our traffic and customers that came into our ecosystem were mobile. We have seen such a dramatic change in people searching on desktop, and probably because more people working from home over COVID. But we actually just went through our numbers in our team meeting this morning, and it's almost back to nearly 75% desktop, and the other being on mobile. So interesting you say about that, because I don't think a lot of people would think about that with their merchandise, for example, and their marketing.
Well, and one of the things, and I think mobile, I think all these are tools you have to use. Go back several decades ago, it was get in the yellow pages or you have a business. But nowadays you can't rely on one medium, because your customer moves around so much. Your customers has such a varied media experience. So you've got to look at where they are. One of the challenges with mobile is they may be on their mobile phone, but they may be having a coffee. So they're flicking through. That's not in depth. And that's where if we get the desktop, they're probably going to spend more chance of grabbing a desktop. And I'm talking digitally desktop. Yes. But if you're actually physically on their desktop, then you're there all the time. And that's you've got that forever presence slowly absorbing the message in. And these days, like you think of an advertising message, it used to be we get 3,000 messages a day. We don't know how many it is today. It's probably tens of thousands. There's that many advertising.
A lot of noise, right?
So, and one of the most powerful tools of advertising is still repetition. We like to call it salience now, because it means we can charge more when we give them advice, but it's repetition. And how do you get that in a cost-effective way? And that's where you'll always question your marketing. Are you getting that repetition with a long tail?
So Matthew, I'm big on numbers and benchmarking, and I get, depending on where you are in your business life cycle, is how much you need to invest in certain mediums at any given time.
Yeah.
But how often, from a marketing perspective, would you recommend that people should review, their merchandise or their marketing collateral? What's a good measure of time to see if you're getting ROI or having an impact in that particular area?
Well, you should be doing everything yearly at least.
Okay.
Right? But really, I mean, you think about like the event you just ran. What's the first thing I imagine you do? I've been involved in events in a former life. The week after you finish the event, you have a review, and you go through what went right, what went wrong, and you start taking it, because that's the golden hour, like they say in emergency times. Like that's when everything's fresh and you're not trying to guesstimate things. You got all that knowledge still there, still nice and warm to use. So I would be constantly analysing it, and sometimes, and I don't want to be piffy with this stuff, but it's sometimes very hard to get the exact right product first time every time, especially too if you're an innovator. If you're an early adopter, you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to pick a product and go, well, that didn't work out as well. I know in the early days of when we started pre-iPod, we started selling MP3 and MP4 players. It was fantastic. We looked so cool and modern when our clients were, buying these MP3 players. Problem was nobody knew how to use them. Right? It was a mistake. We had to go write pamphlets and brochures. It was an absolute nightmare, right? But that's part of that process. So you do it and you adjust and learn. But it's better to keep moving forward and keep making decisions. Like some people, they almost get stage fright with stuff. Oh, I don't know. It might not work. It might not work. But that's advertising, marketing. It's just life. You make a move forward and you adjust course.
I think it's trial and error. Would I be right in saying, I think the most important thing about marketing or merch is who is your customer, and is it relevant and provide value to them? That's sort of every question I ask ourselves in our business. Is that, would you agree?
Yeah, and it's the same. Yes, exactly right. And what happens is you get better the more you do it. Action precedes clarity. It's like if you send EDMs out to emails to your clients regularly, you send one out and you get a poor response. You go, well, that sucked. You go, well, what was the headline? Was the headline wrong? Was the body copied wrong? But then you adjust it. It's not, there's no absolute sort of pure based marketing where you go, I'm going to get 100% return every time. And you've got to look at that and say, well, that you've got to be realistic.
I think it's so true when you say about post-sale, and you think about settlement day, which is kind of when we send reviews and ratings traditionally in this business, and we give the gift. And, there's so much that goes on for a family in that 24-hour period. What is the best time for the gift? What is the best time for the pre-final settlement and the follow-up? So it makes complete sense. Okay, bit of rapid fire for you, Matthew. I want to bombard you with a couple of questions, if that's okay. What are you most proud of in your career?
The ability to change and bounce is a word I often use. Career, like life, throws things at you. Some in your control, some personal screw-ups, some not in control. Things happen, and it's how you respond. We're all human. We all have these moments of doubt or anxiety. What the hell's happening here? But then how do you respond? What do you do next? And that's the bit I've always been proud of, was that when life's thrown me those curveballs, I've actually been able to stop, take stock, do an audit, and then find a way forward.
It's always, none of us like making mistakes, but I tell you what, if we don't make them along the way and learn, then we're not getting better at being better. So what has been your biggest lesson? Gosh, I don't know how you answer this one. Your biggest lesson or your biggest learning?
Are you talking my biggest mistake?
Your hands, Matthew. Your hands.
I'll give you a biggest lesson. I think as a young marketer, I was going to take a bit of David Ogilvy here. I think I looked at the telescope through the wrong end at times. I tried to do things, this is a lot of money, or this is a lot of time, there's a lot of investment. Can I do this another way? And I think when I look at some most successful people I know in my business life, they're very generous. And it's not just money, they're generous with their time, with helping people and doing things. And I was the other way, quite miserly. I tried to do things step by step, thinking, well, we got momentum, we're going the right way, but are we going? I probably wasn't thinking big enough. And having that big picture and going, well, we're this size business, this is where we're going to want to be. Act that way. Don't act like the small business from day one. You've got to act bigger than what you actually are.
I love that mantra. What's possible? If I had all the time in the world, all the money in the world, what would I do? What's possible? It's a great mantra to live by.
And a lot of steps aren't that hard or that big. They're not that. It's like saying I want to be a triathlete. Your aim is to be a triathlete, but you don't train like a triathlete from day one, but you act like it.
Yeah. And it's those little micro moments too, and biting off, I think, is incredibly important. Who's been your role model along along the way? Who's been a good support for you, and why were they a good mentor?
A family first off. My brother's been very good over the years, always has. In fact, we both went from trade to studying marketing to get around the same time, which is interesting. Then as I got older and in different jobs, there's two guys, Ashton Bishop, who I think I mentioned to you earlier, another guy, Roy Camerano, a friend from America. Very good mentors I can ring up for advice, very free, very good and generous at times. But also too, both those guys, they've been through some hard times themselves. And I know I actually rang them both up a number of years ago when I went through some tough times financially and personal life, something going on. And I said, one of the things I looked to was then I looked at what I'd seen them go through. They never gave up on the big picture. They didn't, it would have been very easy. Yeah, they would have been very easy. These guys are smart guys. As soon as things went bad, they got offered jobs, come and get a job. They're all both entrepreneurs. And it's very easy. The safe way out would have been for them to take a very high paying job. And all those around them were encouraging, including some family members and things, encouraging them to do so. But they said, no, this is what I am. This is who I am. This is not average. This is a blip. And sometimes you got to look at that. You go through dark times or hard times. You go, well, you got to remember this is not overall. This is just one moment in time.
So true. And I think just having that tribe around you, it's incredibly important for that mentorship.
Yeah.
Just want to ask you a question if I can. So coming into this time of year, there'll be a lot of people, salespeople, department heads, business owners that'll be watching this going, okay, so Matthew's involved in, merchandise and solutions for customers. What should I look at? And we're actually sitting in our team, the other day going through and having a look. Is there anything in particular that you've seen work really well with respect to merchandise, or is there anything that's new at the moment, or anything you're like, guys, if you haven't thought about this is something that we've had good feedback on, customers like it, customers enjoy it, and it's good quality. Obviously, all your products are good quality.
Yeah, well, it depends on the client, obviously, because in every industry is different. And we do some stuff which I find a bit gaudy, but perfect for that industry. But we had one at your recent conference, the Speaker Lab. We got a bunch of items like that. And what I love about it is just the impact. First of all, it's personal. See, when I give someone a diary, that's a work item. If I give them even a nice pen, that can still be a work item. That's sort of like, well, if it's going to be a gift, then I want to give something personal that's like, oh, wow, that's for me. And something that has impact. Then they take it home, they use it personally. And when they use it, they get impact because they get the benefit of putting this on. People go, wow, there's flashing lights and music and all sorts of stuff. So,
and even for, open homes, for example, companies could get those branded. I often thought, after seeing that at conference, I thought, gosh, if I ever had a moment and decided to go back into sales, I'd actually buy those for kids, like in family homes. I think that'd be really fun, with the lights and things like that. If you could change one thing about the real estate industry, what would it be, or where can we get better?
I go back to what I said earlier, that post-sales customer care. And like I said, it's not just the real estate industry, a number of industries we work in. I see that. It's almost like we want everything built up to get the sale and then nothing afterwards. And to me, you got to build a community. Real estate agents, you look at those, they have a long tenure. They've got the franchise owners or the franchisees, that they're normally in an area for a long time. So you got to think about that. How long can it be in this area for repeat sales? But also too, you mentioned giving kids those lights. That's what happens with promotional products sometimes. Sometimes the kids commandeer them. That's quite common. But that's a good thing because it means you get a gift, you receive a gift, which is a great thing, but then you get to give again, which is a fantastic thing. So it's actually quite a good thing. And now the branding's now gone on to a younger generation. So if you're thinking lifetime value of a client, if you're thinking about long-term, I want this business to grow over 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, not 12, 24 months, that's where promotional products really pay off because you get to put those in the right hands for a long time.
Yeah, and I think some things I've seen work really well over time, regardless of technology. If you're in an area that your market is families, height charts, colouring in books, those things for the kids is incredibly important. But I've seen those people. This industry spends a huge amount of marketing and dollars on community. So 12 times a week is no exaggeration. In my previous role, people would knock on the door, can you sponsor this? And I think obviously we look at it, we go, sometimes that's our social responsibility. And then sometimes we look at community sponsorship and we go, we want bang for buck. So
Yeah.
I would encourage anyone from experience and customers who are doing well in this space is if you are sponsoring something in the local community, rather than giving cash, is maybe giving, sunscreen or giving hats or giving umbrellas that provide value. Like I'm across the road from a school, there's an art and craft fair coming up, and I think they're going to have some rain in a week. So, there's better way, I think, sometimes for us to go into these partnerships strategically. And please reach out to Matthew and his team. They're very flexible. The thing I love about dealing with your team is I ring and I can actually talk to somebody. I'm a bit old school like that. But the service is fantastic. The quality of the product is fantastic. Matthew, how do listeners find you and what do you trade as?
We trade as 4promote.com.au. So that's 4 as the numeral 4. You go on there, you'll find us. All our information's there. So 4promote.com.au. I'm on LinkedIn. Just looked up Matthew Bywater. There's a few of us there, but I think hopefully pick me out. But yeah, so we should be easy enough to find. So
we'll put all your contact details at the bottom of this interview. But I always like to finish with a lesson in life or legacy, or I'm a big believer in R&D, ripping off and duplicating if we can save ourselves time and become more efficient. If you had to do it all over again, what could we learn? Would you do anything differently, or a business handy hit you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, to do it differently, yeah, I would, like I said, I would actually start bigger from the start. I think I have a bigger mindset. I think that was an issue. I'm one of those people that I'm a book reader, and I love quotes from certain people. And quotes can be pithy at times, but they can really mean something at certain times in your life. And I'm one of those people that action precedes clarity. And it's, Nike say, just do it. There's lots of versions of that. I just think in life, sometimes you just got to keep moving forward, keep doing stuff. And marketing, and Deming did this very well, the Japanese post-World War II, constant, never-ending improvement. And I just think the same with marketing. You've got to constant, never-ending marketing, and find out ways to continually get your message out there and always being around. So you don't have to worry about, is the customer going to read this newspaper this day? Because you're always there, no matter what you do, as part of your marketing package.
Such great advice. And just anyone listening, going into the end of 2022, please have a look on your P&L, have a look at what you spend on marketing, have a look at what you spend on merch, community sponsorship, look at return on investment, and then get a bit more strategic about it next year. We spend a lot of money in this space in our industry, and a lot of people do it very, very well, but I also think there's always room for improvement. Matthew, thank you so much for sharing your insights and learnings with us today. You're an incredible talent, and I'm glad that you've come into Regrowth's life, and we'll be sharing a lot more from you to our audience.
Thank you, Kyle. It's been a pleasure.